The energy beams danced across the void like deadly ribbons of light. Admiral Roth watched from his command center as the Thraxi fleet exchanged measured volleys with the Valoran ships. Each blast was calculated, each target carefully chosen. The battle had been raging for exactly 37 hours and 14 minutes. "Casualty report," Roth commanded, his scaled fingers tapping against the metallic console. 12 vessels lost, sir. The Valorans have lost 11. "We are within acceptable parameters," Roth nodded. The ceremonial war protocols demanded that neither side exceed a 15% loss rate. The mining rights to the Kepler system were valuable, but not worth breaking the ancient rules that had kept the galaxy civilized for over 2,000 years. On the opposite side of the battlefield, Commander Vel of the Valoran Collective reviewed similar reports. Her crystalline form shimmered with satisfaction. The engagement was proceeding exactly as planned. In 35 hours, both fleets would withdraw, and the matter would go to the Federation arbitrators. Win or lose, both sides would maintain their honor. Neither commander noticed the small vessel that had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The ship was primitive by galactic standards, its hull scarred by countless micrometeorite impacts. Inside, Captain Williams stared at the tactical display with growing confusion. "What are they doing?" he asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Torres shook her head. "I don't understand it, sir. The Thraxi fleet has clear shots at the Valoran command ship, but they're not taking them. And look at this, the Valorans could have flanked the Thraxi formation an hour ago, but they pulled back." Williams had been in the military for 23 years. He had fought in 3 major conflicts and countless smaller engagements. What he was seeing made no sense. Both fleets were fighting like they were afraid to win. "Sir, we're being hailed," reported the communications officer. The main screen flickered to life, showing the angular features of a Thraxi officer. "Unknown vessel, you are entering a restricted combat zone. Identify yourself immediately." Williams stepped forward. "This is Captain Williams of the Earth vessel Endeavor. We're explorers. We didn't know this system was occupied." The Thraxi officer's eyes widened. "Earth? We have no record of your species. You must withdraw immediately. This is a formal military engagement." "Military engagement?" Williams looked back at the tactical display. "Your ships are barely shooting at each other." The alien seemed confused by the comment. "We are following proper protocols. The engagement will conclude in 34 hours, 56 minutes. Please withdraw to a safe distance." Before Williams could respond, another voice cut through the communications channel. This one was musical, almost like singing. "Thraxi. Vessel, you are in violation of Protocol 7. No communication with neutral parties during active engagement." "Acknowledged, Valoran Command. We are ceasing communication." The screen went dark, leaving the human crew in stunned silence. Williams turned to his science officer. "What did you make of that?" Dr. Reed looked up from her console. "Their weapon signatures are incredible, sir. Either of those fleets could glass a planet in minutes. But they're using maybe 5% of their actual firepower." 5%? "The energy readings don't lie, Captain. They're holding back, a lot." Williams studied the battle again. The more he watched, the more disturbed he became. Ships that could have destroyed each other were instead exchanging token fire. Damaged vessels were allowed to withdraw. No one was trying to press any advantage. "Sir," Torres called out, "both fleets are moving toward us." The tactical display showed the alien ships breaking off their engagement and approaching the human vessel. Williams felt his stomach tighten. The Endeavor was equipped with basic defensive systems, but nothing that could stand against either of these fleets. The communications array crackled to life. 2 voices spoke simultaneously, the harsh tones of the Thraxi and the melodic sounds of the Valorans. "Unknown vessel, you will accompany us to Centris Prime for evaluation and integration." "This is not a request." Williams looked at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. Earth had just achieved faster-than-light travel 6 months ago. The Endeavor was humanity's first deep space exploration vessel, and now they had stumbled into something far beyond their understanding. "Captain," Reed whispered, Their ships are powering up weapon systems. The tactical display showed energy signatures spiking across both fleets. Whatever these aliens were holding back in their fight with each other, they apparently felt no need to show such restraint with humans. "Open a channel," Williams ordered. Both alien commanders appeared on the screen, their images side by side. The Thraxi officer spoke first. "I am Admiral Roth of the Thraxi Empire. This is Commander Vel of the Valoran Collective. You will submit." To escort immediately, Williams kept his voice steady. "We're peaceful explorers. We have no hostile intentions toward either of your peoples." Commander Vel's crystalline features seemed to brighten. "Peaceful intentions are irrelevant. All species must be evaluated by the Federation Council. Your integration into galactic society is mandatory." "Integration?" Admiral Roth's scales shifted color slightly. "You will be taught proper civilization. Your species will learn the protocols of war, the boundaries of conflict, and the rules that maintain galactic peace." Williams felt a chill run down his spine. "Rules of war?" "Naturally," Vel replied. "Unregulated warfare is barbaric. The galaxy has moved beyond such primitive concepts. You will be educated in the proper methods of dispute resolution." The captain looked back at his crew. They were all veterans of Earth's conflicts. They knew what war really meant, not the careful dance he had witnessed, but desperate struggles for survival where mercy was a luxury few could afford. "What if we refuse?" Williams asked. Both alien commanders seemed surprised by the question. Roth spoke slowly, as if explaining something to a child. "Refusal is not an option. Species that reject galactic civilization are quarantined. Your system would be sealed, your people forbidden from leaving your world." Williams nodded slowly. "I understand. We'll comply with your escort." As the alien fleets formed up around the Endeavor, Williams turned to his crew. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them we've made contact with an interstellar government. Tell them we're being brought to their capital for evaluation." "Should we mention the quarantine threat, sir?" Torres asked. Williams watched the alien ships. On the screen, each one was a marvel of technology, capable of unimaginable destruction. But their crews seemed to have forgotten what that technology was really for. "No," he said finally. "Just tell them we're about to learn how the galaxy fights its wars. I have a feeling they're going to be very interested in teaching us their methods." As the combined fleet jumped to hyperspace, Williams wondered what humanity was about to get itself into. The galaxy had rules for everything, apparently including how to kill each other. He just hoped Earth would be able to learn those rules before someone decided to teach them the hard way, the journey to Centris. Prime would take 3 days. Williams spent that time studying the alien ships, learning their procedures, and trying to understand how a galaxy full of warriors had turned war into a game. He had the uncomfortable feeling that humanity was about to discover just how different they really were from the rest of the universe. The great council chamber of Centris Prime stretched higher than any cathedral on Earth. 47 different species sat in carefully arranged tiers, each delegation positioned according to ancient protocols that had governed galactic politics for millennia. At the center of it all, Dr. Emma Stone stood alone, representing all of humanity. Counselor Thane of the aquatic depths leaned forward, his gill slits fluttering with agitation. Water cascaded from his breathing apparatus as he spoke. "The evidence is disturbing. This species shows no understanding of civilized conflict resolution." The holographic display above the chamber showed images from Earth's history. Burning cities, mushroom clouds, massive armies clashing without regard for casualties. The assembled aliens watched with expressions ranging from confusion to horror. "Explain this," demanded General Corax of the Ironscale Dominion, his metallic voice echoing through the chamber. "Your people fought for 4 years without a single formal cessation. No casualty limits, no territorial boundaries, no regard for civilian populations." Stone looked up at the image of World War II playing above her head. "We call it total war. When our survival was threatened, we fought with everything we had." A collective gasp went through the chamber. The concept seemed to physically disturb Many of the representatives, the harmony singers, delicate beings whose entire culture was based on peaceful resolution, began their distress song, a haunting melody that filled the chamber with sadness. Total war is an abomination, Thane declared. For over 2,000 years, the galaxy has maintained peace through regulated conflict. Disputes are resolved through ceremonial combat with predetermined limits. This ensures that no species faces extinction, no civilization is destroyed. Stone tried to explain. But what if someone refuses to follow your rules? What if they keep fighting past your limits? The question seemed to confuse the council. Vel of the Valoran Collective tilted her crystalline head. Such a thing is impossible. All civilized species understand the necessity of limitations. To fight beyond established parameters would be madness. Madness or not, Stone replied. It's what we do when we're pushed far enough. The display shifted to show more recent conflicts. The Mongol conquests, the Crusades, the American Civil War, each image showed the same pattern, humans fighting. With complete dedication, showing no mercy, accepting no limits except total victory or total defeat. Admiral Roth of the Thraxi Empire studied the tactical data with professional interest. Their individual combat effectiveness is impressive, but their strategic thinking is primitive. They waste resources on unnecessary destruction. Unnecessary? Stone's voice carried an edge that made several aliens step back. Every one of those conflicts was about survival. Our people, our freedom, our right to exist, but at what cost? Thane's voice was filled with genuine sadness. Your species has killed more of its own kind than some entire star systems contain. How can you call such slaughter justified? Stone was quiet for a long moment. Around her, the greatest minds of the galaxy waited for her answer. Finally, she spoke. Because sometimes the alternative is worse than death. Sometimes you have to fight like your life depends on it, because it does. The council erupted in debate. Some species called for immediate quarantine of human space. Others suggested that humans might be useful as shock troops, carefully controlled and directed. A few wondered if humanity might be the solution to a problem the galaxy had been ignoring. General Korak stood, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. I propose a practical test. The humans claim their methods are superior. Let them prove it. Absolutely not, Thane protested. We cannot allow barbarians to demonstrate their savagery in civilized space. Then how will we know if they can be trusted? Korak shot back. How will we know if they can learn proper protocols? Stone listened to the debate with growing frustration. These beings discussed war like it was a chess game, complete with rules and manners. They had no concept of what it meant to fight for survival, to push beyond exhaustion, to sacrifice everything for victory. May I say something? She asked. The chamber fell silent. Stone looked around at the assembled aliens, each one representing a civilization that had learned to fight politely. You're all afraid of us, she said simply. You're afraid because we don't fight the way you do. You've turned war into a game, and we still treat it like life and death. Precisely the problem, Thane replied. Your approach is incompatible with galactic civilization. Maybe, Stone agreed. But what happens when someone shows up who doesn't care about your rules? What happens when you face an enemy that fights like we do? The chamber erupted again. Several species began arguing simultaneously, their various languages creating a cacophony of sound. Through it all, Stone stood quietly, watching the greatest diplomatic minds in the galaxy struggle with a simple question. Finally, Elder Wex of the Ancient Collective raised a withered hand for silence. The chamber quieted out of respect for the oldest member of the council. The human raises a valid concern, Wex said, his voice barely above a whisper. Our protocols assume that all combatants will honor the same limitations, but what if they do not? It is a theoretical problem, Vel insisted. All civilized species understand the necessity of controlled conflict. The humans are civilized, Wex replied. They have art, literature, technology, philosophy. Yet they fight without limits. If they can exist, so can others. Stone saw her opportunity. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Let us show that we can learn your ways while keeping our own strengths. The debate continued for hours. Species after species voiced their concerns, their hopes, their fears about integrating humanity into galactic society. Some saw opportunity, others saw disaster waiting to happen. Finally, a vote was called. The result was close: 24 species in favor of provisional acceptance, 23 opposed. Humanity would be allowed to join the Federation on a trial basis. Councillor Thane delivered the Council's decision with obvious reluctance. The human species will be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Federation. You will be assigned a mentor species to teach you proper military protocols. Any violation of galactic warfare limitations will result in immediate expulsion and permanent quarantine. Stone bowed formally. We understand and accept these terms. As the council session ended, various aliens approached Stone with offers of trade, cultural exchange, and military consultation. But she noticed that none of them looked entirely comfortable around her. Even those who had voted for humanity's acceptance seemed nervous. General Corax was the last to approach. Your species interests me, human. I look forward to seeing how you adapt to our methods, and I look forward to showing you what we're capable of. Stone replied. Corax's metallic features shifted into what might have been a smile. Perhaps you will. But remember, the galaxy has rules for a reason. Break them, and you will find yourself very alone in the universe. As Stone left the chamber, she carried with her the weight of humanity's future. The galaxy had accepted them, but barely. They would have to prove themselves worthy of membership, while somehow maintaining the fighting spirit that had carried them through countless conflicts. She just hoped that when the test came, humanity would be ready for it. The galaxy might have rules for war, but Stone had the feeling that someone, somewhere, was going to break those rules. And when they did, the galaxy would need fighters who knew how to win at any cost. The question was whether humanity could learn to be civilized, without losing the savage edge that had made them survivors. Stone feared they were about to find out the hard way. The mining station on Kepler 7 had been humanity's pride for 6 months. Built from scratch by human engineers, it represented everything Earth hoped to achieve in their new galactic home. The facility processed rare metals that were essential for faster-than-light drives, making it valuable beyond measure. Colonel Ryan Mitchell stood in the station's command center, reading the formal challenge that had arrived an hour ago. The document was written in flowing script on what appeared to be organic paper, signed with elaborate seals from the Helix Consortium. They claim ancient territorial rights, Mitchell said to his staff. Apparently some ancestor of theirs surveyed this system 3,000 years ago. Lieutenant Davis looked up from her console. Do they have a legal case? According to Federation law, they do. The surveyor's claim supersedes our colonial rights. Mitchell crumpled the document. So now, we have to fight for what's ours. General Voss of the Corvan Republic entered the command center, his reptilian features showing obvious displeasure. As humanity's assigned mentor, he had been trying to teach human forces proper military protocols for months. It was not going. Well, Colonel Mitchell, I have reviewed the Helix Challenge. The engagement will begin in 18 hours. I trust you have prepared your forces according to Federation standards? Mitchell nodded reluctantly. Energy weapons only, no targeting civilian vessels, 15% casualty limit, 48-hour time restriction. We've got it. Good. The Helix Consortium follows all protocols strictly. This should be a clean, honorable engagement. Voss paused. I must warn you again. Any violation of combat limitations will result in immediate Federation intervention. After the Corvan general left, Mitchell gathered his fleet commanders. The holographic display showed the defensive positions. Around Kepler 7, 12 human ships, all built to Federation specifications, armed with approved weapon systems. Listen up, Mitchell said. We all know what the rules are. We also know what's at stake. That mining station represents 6 months of work and the livelihoods of 3,000 colonists. Commander Brooks of the destroyer Defiant raised her hand. Sir, the Helix Consortium has 22 ships. Even with our technical advantages, the numbers don't look good. Numbers don't win battles, Mitchell replied. But following stupid rules might lose them. The next 18 hours passed slowly. Human crews ran final equipment checks, studied tactical displays, and tried to understand how they were supposed to fight a war with one hand tied behind their backs. The colonists on Kepler-7 continued their evacuation. Though many refused to leave their homes, when the Helix fleet arrived, it was an impressive sight. Their ships were sleek and silver, arranged in perfect formation. The lead vessel broadcast the traditional challenge on all frequencies. Human forces, we are the Helix Consortium. You occupy our ancient territory. We demand satisfaction according to the laws of war. Do you accept combat? Mitchell activated the communications array. This is Colonel Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force. We accept your challenge. The Helix commander's response was formal and polite. Excellent. We shall commence engagement in 1 hour. May the best species prevail. As the hour countdown began, Mitchell watched the enemy fleet assume standard attack formation. Everything about their approach was textbook perfect. They would advance, exchange fire at maximum range, and gradually close distance while both sides took carefully measured casualties. Sir, Lieutenant Davis called out, the Helix fleet is moving into position. They're following Protocol 7 exactly. Mitchell studied the tactical display. The enemy ships were spread out in a line, approaching slowly and deliberately. Their formation was designed to maximize firepower while minimizing losses. It was also predictable. All ships, prepare for engagement. Remember the rules. The battle began exactly as General Voss had predicted. The Helix ships opened fire at maximum range, their energy beams striking human vessels with precision. The human fleet responded in kind, targeting the enemy ships with measured volleys. For the first hour, both sides followed the protocols perfectly. Ships would fire, take damage, withdraw to repair, then return to the fight. It was almost choreographed. In its precision, casualty report, Mitchell ordered. 2 ships damaged, no losses. The Helix have taken similar damage. We're within acceptable parameters. Mitchell watched the dance of destruction continue. Ships that could have been destroyed with concentrated fire were instead allowed to withdraw and repair. Opportunities for decisive strikes were ignored in favor of maintaining proper protocol. Then something changed. The Helix fleet began targeting the evacuation ships leaving Kepler-7. It was technically legal under Federation law. Civilian vessels in a combat zone were considered valid targets during the 48-hour window. So they're firing on the evacuation transports. Mitchell watched in horror as Helix energy beams struck the defenseless civilian ships. The transports had no shields, no weapons, no way to defend themselves. They were simply trying to get families to safety. Return fire. Protect those ships. Sir, we can't. They're within the legal combat zone. The protocols allow targeting of civilian vessels. Mitchell watched another transport explode, taking 200 civilians with it. Men, women, children, all dead because the rules of war said it was acceptable to kill them. Damn the protocols, Mitchell growled. All ships, weapons free. Take out those bastards. Sir, General Voss specifically ordered. I don't care what he ordered. They're killing civilians. The human fleet suddenly changed tactics. Instead of the careful, measured approach they had been using, they began fighting like humans. Ships broke formation, used emergency power to close distance, and concentrated their fire on individual targets. The Helix fleet, expecting continued protocol compliance, was caught completely off guard. Their perfect formations became death traps as human ships ignored casualty limits and weapon restrictions. Colonel, we're exceeding the 15% limit. Keep firing. Sir, the Helix commander is requesting formal surrender. Negative, they killed our people. We finished this. The battle became a slaughter. Human ships rammed enemy vessels, used improvised weapons, and fought with a savage intensity that terrified the Helix crews. Ships that tried to surrender were destroyed anyway. The human fleet had stopped following any rules except one: eliminate the threat. General Voss arrived in system just as the last Helix ship was destroyed. His communications to the human fleet were ignored. Mitchell had ordered radio silence until every enemy vessel was eliminated. The aftermath was devastating. The Helix Consortium had lost all 22 ships and over 15,000 crew members. Human losses were minimal, 3 ships damaged, 47 casualties. When General Voss finally reached Colonel Mitchell, the human officer showed no remorse. "You have violated every principle of civilized warfare," Voss said. "The Federation will not tolerate such barbarism." Mitchell looked at the wreckage of the evacuation transports floating in space. "They killed our civilians. They followed your rules while murdering innocent people. Civilian casualties are regrettable but acceptable under combat protocols. Your response was completely disproportionate." "Disproportionate?" Mitchell's voice was cold. "They wanted our colony. They tried to take it by killing our people. We stopped them. Permanently." Voss studied the tactical reports with growing alarm. The human fleet had fought with an efficiency that was terrifying. They had ignored every limitation, every protocol, every rule that kept galactic warfare civilized. "The Helix commander's final transmission was logged by our monitoring stations," Voss said quietly. "He called your species monsters." Mitchell nodded. "Maybe we are. But those monsters just saved 3,000 colonists from being murdered in their beds." As news of the battle spread through the galaxy, species after species began to question whether humanity belonged in civilized space. The humans had proven they could fight, but they had also proven they couldn't be trusted to follow the rules. The galaxy was about to learn that some rules were made to be broken, and that sometimes monsters were exactly what you needed to survive. Emergency sessions were rare in the Galactic Federation. In 2,000 years of civilized space, only 7 had been called. The 8th was about to convene, and every species in the galaxy knew why. The great chamber of Centrus Prime buzzed with nervous energy as representatives took their seats. Holographic displays showed the aftermath of the Kepler-7 battle, debris fields where the Helix Consortium fleet had been completely destroyed, and the twisted wreckage of civilian evacuation ships. Counselor Thane of the aquatic depths called the session to order, his gill slits fluttering with barely controlled emotion. "We are here to address the human violation of galactic warfare protocols. The evidence is undeniable. Humanity has shown itself incapable of civilized conduct." The main display showed tactical recordings from the battle. The assembled aliens watched in stunned silence as human ships ignored every rule of engagement, fighting with a savage intensity that belonged to a darker age. "This is not warfare," declared Elder Wex of the Ancient Collective. "This is butchery." The humans destroyed ships attempting to surrender. They ignored casualty limits. They fought like primitives. General Corax of the Ironscale Dominion leaned forward, his metallic features reflecting the chamber's lights. "The tactical analysis is fascinating. Their efficiency rating was unprecedented. They eliminated a superior force with minimal losses." "At what cost?" Thane demanded. "They violated every principle that keeps our civilization from destroying itself." The debate that followed was intense. Some species called for immediate expulsion and quarantine. Others suggested that humanity might be useful as a weapon, carefully controlled and directed. A few wondered if the humans might have had a point. The Harmony Singers, whose delicate forms trembled with distress, began their morning song. "The balance is broken. The humans have brought chaos to our ordered galaxy." But it was the testimony of General Voss that truly disturbed the council. The Corvan officer stood at the center of the chamber, his reptilian features showing a mixture of fear and fascination. "I have studied human military history for 6 months," he reported. "Their approach to warfare is unlike anything in our recorded history. They do not fight to resolve disputes, they fight to eliminate threats." "Barbaric," Thane muttered. "Perhaps," Voss agreed, "but also effective. The humans won a decisive victory against superior numbers because they were willing to do what we consider unthinkable." The display shifted to show Colonel Mitchell's post-battle report. The human officer appeared defiant, unrepentant, and completely unapologetic for his actions. "They killed our civilians," Mitchell's recorded voice echoed through the chamber. "They followed your rules while murdering innocent people. We stopped them, permanently." Several species began arguing simultaneously. The concept of fighting beyond established limits was so alien to their thinking that they struggled to comprehend it. What if they're right? The voice belonged to Commander Vel of the Valoran Collective. The crystalline being rarely spoke during council sessions, making her words carry extra weight. The chamber fell silent. Vel continued, her musical voice carrying across the vast space. "What if our protocols are flawed? What if there are enemies who will not follow our rules?" "Impossible," Thane declared. "All civilized species understand the necessity of limited warfare." "The humans are civilized," Val replied. "They have art, literature, philosophy, technology, yet they fight without limits. If they can exist, so can others." As if summoned by her words, an alarm began blaring throughout the chamber. The great doors burst open as a messenger rushed in, his crystalline form crackling with urgent energy. "Counselors! The outer systems are under attack." The chamber erupted in chaos. Species representatives began shouting questions, demanding information, trying to understand what was happening. The main display flickered to life, showing sensor readings from the galaxy's edge. "The Ravager swarm has entered Federation space," the messenger reported. "They are attacking colonies in the outer rim." Thane's gill slits closed in shock. "The Ravagers? They have been dormant for centuries." "No longer. They have destroyed 3 colonies already. The Zephyrian Defense Fleet engaged them according to protocol. And the Ravagers ignored all attempts at formal engagement. They destroyed the entire Zephyrian fleet. No survivors." The chamber fell silent. The Ravagers were a nomadic species that had occasionally raided the galaxy's edge, but they had always been deterred by shows of force. They had never pressed a serious attack. "Surely they will respond to negotiation," suggested Elder Wex. "They are not responding to any communications," the messenger replied. "They appear to be fighting for total conquest." General Korak stood, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. "What are their tactics? Crude but effective. They ignore all protocols, show no mercy to surrendering ships, and target civilian populations without discrimination." The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. For 2,000 years, they had maintained peace through regulated conflict. Every species understood the rules, accepted the limitations, and fought within established boundaries. But the Ravagers were fighting like humans, without mercy, without limits, without stopping. "We need to coordinate a response," Thane declared. "Assemble the defense fleet. We will engage them according to proper protocols." "Sir," the messenger's voice was barely a whisper, "the Altarian fleet engaged them 2 hours ago." They followed all protocols, observed all limitations, and attempted formal surrender when they reached casualty limits. "And the Ravagers destroyed them all? They do not recognize surrender? They do not accept limitations? They fight until everything is dead." The chamber erupted again. Species after species began demanding action, protection, immediate military response. But as the reports continued to arrive, a terrible pattern emerged. Every fleet that engaged the Ravagers according to Federation protocols was completely destroyed. "We need a new approach," Vel said quietly. "What do you suggest?" "Thane," asked Dot before Vel could answer. Another voice cut through the chaos. "You need the humans." The chamber turned to see General Voss standing at his place, his reptilian features grim. "The humans fight like the Ravagers. They ignore rules, show no mercy, and fight until the threat is eliminated." "Absolutely not," Thane protested. "We cannot legitimize their barbarism." "Then we will all die," Voss replied simply. "The Ravagers will not follow our rules. They will not accept our limitations. They will fight until we are extinct." The debate that followed was the most intense in Federation history. Species argued for conventional response, for negotiation, for anything except unleashing the humans. But as more reports arrived, as more fleets were destroyed, the terrible truth became clear: the galaxy's civilized approach to warfare had left them, defenseless against an enemy that fought like humans. Finally, Elder Wex raised a trembling hand. For silence. I call for a vote. Should we request human military assistance against the Ravager threat? The vote was close, 25 species in favor, 22 opposed. By the narrowest margin in Federation history, the Council authorized the unthinkable. Send word to the human fleet, Thane said, his voice heavy with resignation. Tell them we need their help. As the message was transmitted, Council members began to understand what they had done. They had spent months trying to civilize humanity, to teach them proper warfare, to make them follow the rules. Now they were asking humans to save them precisely. Because they refused to follow those rules, the galaxy was about to learn that sometimes survival required monsters. And humanity was about to show them what monsters could do when they were finally unleashed. The question was whether the cure would prove worse than the disease. The Council had opened a door that might never be closed again. They had legitimized human methods of warfare, and there was no telling where that might lead. But as the Ravager swarm continued its advance toward the heart of civilized space, the alternative seemed even worse. The galaxy needed fighters who could win at any cost, and humanity was the only species that knew how to be that savage. The monsters were coming to save them all. The human fleet that assembled at the edge of Federation space was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Rebecca Hayes stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution, watching as ships from across human space took their positions. These were not the polite, protocol-following vessels that had been operating under Federation oversight. These were warships, built for one purpose: to kill efficiently and without mercy. Fleet status report, Hayes commanded. 67 ships. Ready for combat, Admiral? All weapon restrictions have been lifted. All combat protocols suspended. We are authorized to engage the enemy by any means necessary. Hayes nodded grimly. She had fought in the Martian Rebellion, the Centauri Independence War, and a dozen smaller conflicts. She understood what the Federation was asking her to do. They wanted her to be the monster they were too civilized to become. Communications from Centrus Prime, Admiral. The main screen flickered to life, showing the haggard face of Counselor Thane. The alien's gill slits were pale with exhaustion, and his usually pristine appearance was disheveled. Admiral Hayes, the Ravager advance has accelerated. They will reach the core systems within 72 hours. 3 more fleets have been destroyed attempting to slow them down. How many ships are we facing? Hayes asked. Approximately 800 vessels. They are crude but numerous, and they fight with tactics similar to do-your-own methods. Hayes studied the tactical display. The Ravager fleet was massive, spread across multiple star systems, advancing on all fronts simultaneously. Their ships were ugly, patched together from salvaged materials and bristling with crude but effective weapons. What's their command structure? Hayes asked. Unknown. They do not respond to any communications. Every attempt at negotiation has been ignored, Hayes smiled coldly. Then we'll have to speak their language. The transmission ended, leaving Hayes alone with her fleet commanders. Colonel Mitchell, recently released from Federation custody, stood at her side. His face bore the grim expression of a man who had already crossed lines that others feared to approach. Orders, Admiral? Simple. We find their leadership and we kill it. Then we hunt down every last ship in their fleet and destroy them all. The human fleet moved out from Federation space like a pack of wolves. Their approach was nothing like the measured, ceremonial advances that characterized galactic warfare. They moved fast, hit hard, and showed no mercy. The first engagement came at the Nexus system, where the Ravagers had established a staging area for their final assault on Centrus Prime. The alien ships were arranged in a loose formation around the system's gas giant, their crude hulls reflecting the orange light of the dying star. Enemy fleet detected, reported the tactical officer. 67 ships, all classes. Any Federation vessels in the area? Negative, Admiral. The Altarian fleet was destroyed here 6 hours ago. Hayes looked at the debris field that had once been an entire civilization's navy. Ships broken apart, crew modules scattered like toys, emergency beacons crying out to no one. The Ravagers had left nothing alive. All ships, weapons free, no quarter given, none expected. The human fleet struck, without warning. Where Federation forces would have broadcast challenges and observed proper engagement protocols, the humans simply opened fire. Their weapons, freed from Federation restrictions, tore through Ravager shields like paper. The alien response was immediate and savage. Ravager ships swarmed toward the human fleet, firing crude but powerful weapons. They showed no formation discipline, no tactical planning, just pure aggressive instinct. "They fight like animals," observed Commander Brooks from the destroyer. "Defiant. Good," Hayes replied. "So do we." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships used tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. They targeted command vessels first, disrupting enemy coordination. They used ramming attacks when their weapons were insufficient. They hunted down damaged ships rather than allowing them to withdraw, but the Ravagers gave as good as they got. Their ships were built for close combat, armed with weapons designed to cause maximum damage. They showed no fear, no hesitation, and no mercy. "Hull breach on deck 7, called out the damage control officer. "Seal it and keep fighting," Hayes ordered. The human ship shuddered under enemy fire, but its crew continued their work with grim efficiency. This was what they had trained for, what their entire military tradition had prepared them for, a fight to the death against an implacable enemy. "Admiral, we've identified what appears to be their command ship. It's heavily armored, twice the size of anything else in their fleet." Hayes studied the massive Ravager vessel. It was covered in weapon ports, surrounded by smaller ships that seemed to defer to its authority. If she was right about their command structure, destroying that ship might end the battle. "All ships, concentrate fire on the command vessel." "Everything we have." The human fleet turned its attention to the Ravager command ship. Energy beams, missile salvos, and experimental weapons all focused on the massive target. The alien ship's shields flared and failed under the concentrated assault. But the Ravagers weren't finished. As their command ship died, the remaining vessels went into a berserker rage. They abandoned all pretense of tactics and simply tried to take as many humans with them as possible. "They're ramming us," someone shouted. Hayes watched as Ravager ships threw themselves at human vessels in suicide attacks. Their crude hulls split apart on impact, but the damage they caused was devastating. "Return the favor," Hayes ordered coldly. Human ships began using ramming attacks of their own. The bridge crew watched in fascination as they're supposedly civilized species proved they could be just as savage as any alien barbarian. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it was over, the Nexus system was filled with debris from both fleets. The humans had won, but at a terrible cost. 15 ships destroyed, thousands of crew members dead. "Casualty report," Hayes requested. 3,247 Kiar, 14 ships heavily damaged. In any previous conflict, such losses would have been unacceptable, but Hayes felt only grim satisfaction. They had proven that humans could fight the Ravagers on equal terms. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from across Ravager space. It appears that destroying their command ship has caused their entire fleet to scatter." Hayes nodded. Without central coordination, the Ravager swarm was breaking apart into individual groups. They were still dangerous, but no longer capable of coordinated assault. "Signal the Federation. Tell them the immediate threat is over, then begin hunting operations. I want every Ravager ship in this sector destroyed." The cleanup took 3 days. Human ships systematically hunted down the scattered Ravager vessels, showing no mercy to ships that tried to surrender and no quarter to those that fled. It was methodical, efficient, and completely brutal. When it was over, Admiral Hayes received a transmission from Centris Prime. The Federation Council wanted to meet with her immediately. The journey back to the galactic capital gave Hayes time to think about what her species had become. They had saved the galaxy, but at the cost of confirming every fear the aliens had about human nature. The council chamber was packed when she arrived. Every species representative was present, along with military observers and diplomatic staff. The mood was tense, uncertain. Councillor Thane spoke first. Admiral Hayes, the Federation owes humanity a debt that cannot be repaid. You have saved us from extinction. Just doing our job, Hayes replied, but at what cost? Elder Wex leaned forward, his ancient features creased with concern. Your methods were effective, but they were also terrifying. You fought with the same savagery as the Ravagers themselves. Hayes looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. These beings had spent 2,000 years creating a galaxy where war was a game, where killing was limited, where even enemies showed mercy. And now they had seen what happened when those rules were abandoned. You asked us to save you, she said simply. This is how we save things. We don't play games, we don't follow rules that get our people killed, and we don't stop until the threat is completely eliminated. And what happens now? Thane asked. How do we return to civilized warfare after what we have witnessed? Hayes smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You don't. The galaxy has changed. You've seen what humans can do when we're unleashed. Other species will adapt or they'll become irrelevant. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species called for new restrictions on human military activity. Others argued that humanity had earned the right to set their own rules. A few wondered if they should start adopting human methods themselves. The Federation offers humanity full membership, Thane announced after the debate subsided. No restrictions, no oversight, no limitations on your military activities. Generous, Hayes replied, but unnecessary. We'll take associate membership. We'll help when you need us, but we won't pretend to be something we're not. As she left the chamber, Hayes reflected on what had changed. The galaxy had learned that their civilized approach to warfare was a luxury they could only afford when everyone agreed to the same rules. When faced with an enemy that refused to play by those rules, they had needed humans to save them. The question was whether they would remember that lesson when the next crisis came. Hayes suspected they would. The galaxy had seen human fury unleashed, and that was not something easily forgotten. Humanity had found their place in the galactic community, not as junior members learning to be civilized, but as the monsters who kept civilization safe from other monsters. It was not the role they had wanted, but it was the role they were born to fill. The galaxy knew war, but until now, it had never known human fury. Now it did, and the universe would never be the same.